a really fascinating, very interesting area, this whole issue of how you make sure that what you're thinking about, what you're doing, what you're delivering actually is for everybody in the community. And I suppose with an area of the scale and the size and the diversity of the Heartland, it is a really tough brief because it's rural, it's urban, it's rich and it's poor, it's young and it's old, and it's a really big challenge. And I think as I keep going on about it, the infrastructure is really important, but the people are really what it's all about. Which leads us on to our next session, which is all about transport enabling placemaking. And I think, again, it's all about how we actually use the transport to, not just to transport people from A to B, but actually to focus on creating the places that people want to live. We've got 3 short briefings on 3 Heartland projects, where the transport investment will hopefully unlock some really big opportunity. I'll introduce them as they come along. We've got Councillor Duncan Enright talking about the Oxford Station. We're going to hear from Martin Kemp talking about the HERT project, the Hertfordshire Essex Rapid Transit. But let's kick us off. Neil Sainsbury, where's Neil? There, Neil. Neil Sainsbury, Head of Urban Design and Landscape Architecture at Milton Keynes Council, and you're going to talk to us about East West Rail. So, keep it tight.
I'll try.
And then we get some questions. Neil, welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm really pleased to be able to briefly talk to you about the most significant and exciting regeneration and opportunity in Milton Keynes, which is at Bletchley. Bletchley is a struggling historic town on the southern edge of Milton Keynes, but as a major transport interchange on East-West Rail, Central Bletchley will benefit from unrivaled connectivity and accessibility along the so-called brain belt of Britain. Cambridge and Oxford will be just 30 to 45 minutes away. The rail investment and connectivity will underpin growth and serve as a catalyst for transformational urban renewal and development, creating a vibrant and thriving town centre, one that is pedestrian scaled with genuine sustainable travel options and a strong link to its technology heritage. So what has Milton Keynes Council's response been to date to capitalise on this opportunity? In 2013, we secured 7.65 million towards a local contribution, and that's very much about an eastern train entrance, and I'll talk about that in a moment. In our local plan, which we adopted in 2019, we included a policy, SD16, the Central Bletchley Prospectus area, which in summary is about really creating a policy that facilitates higher density development around this transport interchange. In 2020, the Council approved a prospectus for Central Bletchley, which was really about enthusing and exciting investors and developers, making them aware of the opportunity at Bletchley. And that prospectus sets out a vision for a future Central Bletchley that capitalises on the opportunity of the access and connectivity East-West Rail provides, as well as setting out some key placemaking themes that would underpin any renewal. And together with that, we identified a variety of opportunity sites. In March 2021, the Council secured 22.7 million funding from the Town Deal programme. This is very much we see as a sort of a levelling up fund when compared to the rest of Milton Keynes. And many of the projects that are identified within that Town Deal fund will help enable the delivery of the placemaking themes I referred to in some of those opportunity sites. We're also currently at the moment producing a supplementary planning document for Central Bletchley, and that will build on the prospectus and provide a holistic rather than a piecemeal approach to development. This holistic approach is really important because it will allow wider public benefits to be delivered. The SPD will also outline key design guidance, providing clarity and certainty to landowners and developers. So if we quickly look at the study area, we've got the West Coast Main Line running through the centre. East-West Rail shoots off to the right. The town centre is currently on the right-hand or eastern side of the railway line. Saxon Street over here is a key piece of infrastructure as a dual carriageway, but has got its own problems I'll talk about in a moment. On the western side is where the entrance is, and that's a key issue for us, in that we've got the town centre on the eastern side, but the train station's currently on the western side. We've also got Bletchley Park at the top here, which is, as you're probably aware, the home of the code breakers in World War II. and it's got a bunch of listed buildings. And we also have got Milton Keynes College located within the Red Line area. So just looking at the existing context, because there's an opportunity for East West Rail and the renewal and the supplementary planning document to really respond to that agenda. So at the moment we've got Queensway over here, which is the high street in central Bletchley, and it's got a lot of positive attributes actually. It's got wide pavements, it's tree lined. I think the previous speakers talked about green streets, but it is unfortunately, and it is very busy, but it has got a lot of low-end shops and it has no evening economy. The slide on the right-hand side shows Stania Square, which is at the western end of Queensway. It's a pedestrianised area, but it's very closed off from the outside area, and you can see a little sort of alleyway through there that connects to the wider movement network. The slide on the left shows the town centre and the shops that turn their back on the railway line, and they turn their back on Saxon Street. And the photo on the right, I think, illustrates the barrier effect that's created by Saxon Street. The image on the left shows the shopping centre, and Queensway is hidden sort of beyond there. You have to walk through an alleyway to find it. And the right-hand image just shows works going on at East West Rail at the moment on the platform adjacent to Saxon Street in central Bletchley. I talked about earlier that the prospectus that we had approved identified a variety of opportunity sites. What the supplementary planning document will do is amalgamate those into opportunity areas and provide design guidance for these opportunity areas to provide clarity, as I said earlier, to investors and developers about what the council's expectations are for the area. Some of these sites are already developing. Numbers 2 and 4, we've got planning applications in for higher density residential development. Site 11 is a very crucial one adjacent to the railway line. That's a former police and fire station site that the council's property company, Milton Keynes Development Partnership, have acquired, and that will be for mixed-use residential development, but crucially will include an innovation hub, which will provide incubating space for emerging businesses. And the town deal fund that I talked about earlier, we've secured, we've got 3 million of funding allocated towards helping to deliver that innovation hub on this particular site. We've also got a transport and parking study that is underpinning as an evidence base underpinning the SPD, and that will help with some of the other projects. So we've got numbers 12, which is the High Street area, number 15, which is the bus station, and 16, which is Saxon Street itself. So a number of the opportunity sites are about transforming infrastructure as well. And we've got, the town deal again has provided sort of 6 million of funding across those 3 projects to look at assisting to transform infrastructure. I talked about earlier these placemaking themes in the prospectus, and the first placemaking theme here is about an improved sense of arrival. When you come from Saxon Street in the north, whether you come by bus, pedestrian, cyclist, or by car, it's not a very attractive environment at all. And part of our vision is to transform this, improve the sense of arrival by downgrading Saxon Street. And on the top right here, you can see an image. I think one of the speakers after me is going to talk about Oxford, and that's Friedwide Square in Oxford, which we believe acts as a good sort of comparison of how they've managed to change a key arterial into Oxford, make it more pedestrian friendly. We've also crucially got an eastern entrance shown here, that little blue dot on the other side with platforms. So in terms of improving the sense of arrival, it's absolutely fundamental, we believe, to have an eastern entrance that opens out onto the eastern, opens up on the eastern side to the town centre. The existing bus station, we're also looking to perhaps relocate on the western side so we can create a more efficient modal interchange. The next key theme is a compact central Bletchley, and that really means allowing more people to live in close proximity to what will be an extremely accessible and connected place. The higher densities of people in a compact Bletchley also means it'll be more walkable, and a more walkable central Bletchley will mean more people walking and lead to more active lives and more healthy lives. A higher density of population will also allow a diversification of uses. So in the high street at the moment, where there's very much the same low-end uses, The higher density will lead to more spend and hopefully will diversify uses and provide more housing choice. Opening new routes and spaces is another key theme. And what's critical there is to open up Queensway, which is currently, as I said, closed off, open it up and extend it into Buckingham Road and open it up to a new eastern entrance. So it's really about creating this continuous route, making it more visible. And in terms of Queensway, we're having a lot of discussions as well at the moment about improving that as a space, and there's pros and cons, and it was alluded to earlier about whether we should potentially look to pedestrianise Queensway to help make it into a more 24-hour destination so people come there and spend more time there. The next key placemaking theme is about breaking down the divide. There's a perception that the railway line provides an east-west divide in central Bletchley, and clearly with an eastern entrance on this side and reconnecting Queensway to Buckingham Road will help. The final key placemaking theme is about establishing an identity for Bletchley. And the other image on the right over here you can see is Bletchley Park, the home of the code breakers. It's a big tourist destination now. But we want to really try and build on the technology heritage of Bletchley Park in establishing an identity. And in addition to that, Milton Keynes College, located over here, have got a planning application in at the moment for the Institute of Technology. And together with the Institute of Technology, again, the town deals allocated funding for a tech hub as part of the Institute of Technology. And that, together with the Innovation Hub I referred to earlier, will really sort of help, we believe, establish an identity for Central Bletchley. I talked earlier about the importance of opening up new spaces, and I think it's critical, with the higher density of people that will live in Central Bletchley in the future, to provide access to high-quality open space. I think that the previous speaker alluded to the fact that COVID's shown how valuable open space is to people, and there's a big nature reserve just south of Bletchley, within 800 metres of the town centre, but the current pedestrian connectivity is really poor. So there's opportunities to improve the pedestrian connectivity and create a sequence of green spaces existing and proposed through to the town centre and allow these people to have access to high-quality open space. Finally, just a couple of images showing how Central Bletchley might look in the future. We've got a new modal interchange on the eastern side of Saxon Street, a downgraded pedestrian surface across, and higher densities associated with a modal interchange. This one is looking in a westerly direction through Queensway, reconnecting to Buckingham Road, and again showing higher densities around the modal interchange. And finally, the final slide is just to say East-West Rail and the opportunities that the transformational renewal will have can really address some key issues, and climate change and sustainability are clearly at the top of the agenda, where we've got higher density development and sustainable modes of travel. But within Milton Keynes Council, we still have tension with parking standards, so we've still got to try and ensure new developments don't have an abundance of parking provision. There's a response to the pandemic. Clearly, by creating a more walkable neighbourhood, people can lead more active and healthy lives. What's critical is that the renewal addresses existing and new residents, opportunities for training, jobs and homes, and for renewal which is socially inclusive, environmentally sustainable and economically successful. And finally, about creating an identity for Bletchley, and that's, as I said a bit earlier, talking about building on its technology heritage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Neil. Thanks. Mark Kemp is next on. Mark, Director of Environment and Infrastructure at Herts County Council. Tell us about the HERT, the Herts Essex Rapid Transit. Thanks, Mark. I will just rebuild your stand.
And I got the message about time, so
excellent.
I will see what I can do. So moving on, so I'm here to talk to you about the HERT, the rebranding of the Mass Rapid Transit system in Hertfordshire, which is mentioned in the EEH Transport Strategy and kindly mentioned by Mayor Dave this morning. This is not a projection by Hertfordshire County Council that we're going to be back to the Jetsons in 10 years' time. It's more a point that we're not quite sure whether we're going to be rubber wheeled or metal wheeled, so we decided not to give it any wheels at all. So Hertfordshire, what are our challenges? One of the big challenges here is that Hertfordshire is really, really well served radially out of London. If you're getting to most of the places in England, economic heartland, if you're heading north, You can get up on the major rail line stations. National highways have a load of roads going through us that are heading radially out of London towards the rest of the country. Our orbital connectivity is pretty rubbish. We've got the M25 and the M25 in reality. So the next corridor we've got outside that is the A414 Corridor. Currently, pre-pandemic, about 35,000 vehicles a day at its busiest times, and 76% of those private vehicle. So what do we do about it in terms of a challenge? Looking at our local plans going forward, we're looking at something like 100,000 homes by the mid-2030s, and of those 100,000 homes in Hertfordshire, 50,000 of them will be within 3 miles of this corridor. So a real opportunity for us to do something that impacts on travel choices that people are making. By that time in 2030, we reckon that there'll be 18 to 20% more traffic on the network unless we really do something about it. So critical that we think about what we can do. Like all good projects, we have a vision, so that's there. You'll get the slides later, so you can read it there. But like all good visions, it wants us to be a nice place to work, live and visit, so that's all great, and I'll move on from that. So here are our objectives. We're looking, as say, in terms of our economic growth. So the HERT corridor links to enterprise zones and obviously a large number of potential development sites in local plans. We think we'll be able to open up some significant job opportunities, and we think it'll help us deliver against our Sustainable Hertfordshire strategy in terms of reducing the impact of our travel on the climate. Talking a bit about wider connectivity, so I sometimes refer to our route as the 4 H's. So at the moment the idea is that we will connect Hemel, Hempstead, Hatfield, Hartford, and then Harlow and Essex. That's why it's called the Heart and Essex Rapid Transit System. But we'd also got aspirations for connectivity that might get us up to Stansted Airport and then down to Watford and the famous Croxley Rail Link corridor that we've been trying to get over the line for so many years. So in the east at Harlow, we've got a new garden community as well. We've got a garden community in the west at Hemel. So this really is an opportunity to make a significant difference to the way the residents of Hertfordshire feel about their county. We've all got a bid in for the Abbey line, which is at St Albans, try and improve connectivity there. Again, a link into this potential network, which could over time spread out and produce some kind of mass rapid transit solution for Hertfordshire. So where are we in key milestones? We're coming up to our strategic outline business case. We've been having some discussions with stakeholders at the moment. We're just about to go out with our first public engagement phase. A little bit difficult for people to grab hold of in terms of a route when what we don't know is quite where we're going to be stopping. We're not talking about taking parking places away from anybody yet, and all those sorts of things that we know that the public get really, really interested in. We're trying to get them to understand the aspiration for a mass rapid transit system that would go across the southern part of the county and deliver that connectivity. We then will be looking to get our strategic outline business case sorted out in the winter, and then submit for our strategic outline business case in the spring of next year. We've been doing member briefings. There's a teaser video that's currently available. The last slide will give you a link. I encourage you to click on the link, then you'll be able to see everything about the Heart, and you'll be able to watch the really exciting video that we had many evenings of fun working out whether we had the right look of people and all those sorts of things. So I hope you'll really enjoy watching that. So in terms of our focus, in terms of that, as I said, really difficult. We're not asking people whether they're going to lose a parking space, whether we're going to block up their road, or those sorts of things. What we're trying to understand is, do they accept the idea that a mass rapid transit system is a good answer for Hertfordshire? Is there a demand for it? If we put it there, are they going to use it, or are we going to be just ferrying air around the county, which we obviously don't want to do? What would be the benefits to them of the Heart? And what sort of trips will they be making? We think that there'll be a few longer trips, but most of it will be a bit hop on and hop off. So in terms of the options we're looking at the moment, in terms of our strategic outline business case, we've got 3 options. We've got the really rapid express stopping at a few places between Hemel and Harlow, although stopping somewhere between Hemel and Harlow. We've got an option which is the slow train, that stops at just about everywhere we can think of that it would be sensible to stop at. And then we're trying an option which we're calling, well, I forgot what we're calling it. We're calling it Network Max. Network Max, which is a combination of the two. So do you see a system where you could catch, to use the train analogy, a fast train or a slow train to get to do the connections that you want to do? We're not talking about specific stops, although there are some key locations that we know we're likely to be stopping at. So for example, Hatfield train station is a real transport hub for Hertfordshire, so the likelihood is that something will be stopping there. And we're not, as I say, yet talking about what that vehicle technology will be. In reality, this is a 10, 15-year project, and who knows where we'll be in terms of vehicle technology then. So we are asking people to engage in the project, to understand where we are, to get involved with the website, to give us their views and thoughts about what the HERT could look like and could deliver for the residents of Hertfordshire and beyond. So that's just about me. There's the link. I do encourage you to use the link. You'll enjoy the video, I promise. Thank you.
Before you go, I know we're going to run out of time, so I'm not going to have any questions. There's one thing I wanted to ask you. You talked about your consultation there. Going on for the question I asked earlier of the last panel, what have you done to make sure that you get to all the people, not just the usual suspects?
So we're investing in a number of ideas. We're using technology really for the younger community, something storyboarding. So we're enabling things to be visible on the storyboard. We're using YouTube and all those sorts and the links to the video to try and encourage people to join up. We're also in stakeholder observations. We're meeting with parish councils and all those things that will get us to the more elderly members of the fraternity and those sorts of things. So a wide range of things, but I do think, public consult, if I could find the answer to that question, that's kind of the holy grail for all of us trying to deliver projects, whether it be, big things like this or little traffic calming schemes. If we could work that out, someone can make a lot of money, would be my answer to that.
Martin, thank you very much. Round of applause, Martin. Thanks a lot. Right. And finally, we move on to, I think, Councillor Duncan, right? You're the only person who's actually got any power to do anything about it, I think. Is that right? Cabinet Member for Travel and Development Strategy at Oxfordshire. And you're going to talk about the Oxford Station redevelopment plans.
Yeah, I am. Thank you very much indeed. Yes, and I'm not paid to be here. I'm elected to be here. So I'm the Cabinet Member for Travel and Development Strategy. I'm delighted that my predecessor's here as well, because she keeps me up to the mark. And it's good to see a number of elected members here as well. It's an important part of what we're doing. We were elected in May with 3 main priorities, the first of which was to address the climate emergency. We've been talking about that today in a rather strange venue to be talking about the climate emergency, I have to say, but it's exciting nevertheless, isn't it? And the noise keeps us all focused. Oh, they're all on ethylene. No, that's okay then. The second is to tackle inequalities in Oxfordshire, across the economic heartland as well. We have incredible inequalities, and it's really good to hear people talking about social value and the extent to which travel can contribute to richer lives for everybody, and to try and sort of pull in some of those inequalities that we face. And the third is to try to be more engaging as a council, and that's not just engaging with the people that we serve, although that's critically important, and in serving critical partners such as the bus companies, who are incredibly important partners of ours, or the railways, but it's also to engage our colleagues in the districts and the City Council and the towns and parishes of Oxfordshire. Not something which the unitary authority debate has often fostered in the past. We're trying to push that aside now so that we can operate closely with our partner authorities as well. So as much of our planning is done in concert as we could possibly make it. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is this little project here. People know Oxford Railway Station, right? And you also know Oxford City, right? Oxford City is one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and the railway station is one of the ugliest railway stations in the economic heartland, if not the country, if not the world, in the ugliest part of the city. And we want to change that. We want to be able to push the beautiful city of Oxford down through the railway station and beyond, and to redevelop the whole area so that Oxford can once again be united. And I think a bit in the way as people turned away from the rivers in the 19th century because they stank, a lot of cities built their railways out of the way because they were an embarrassment and they were required to get people from A to B, but you didn't want to talk about it. And meanwhile, there's sort of the nice town, the nice city up here was left untouched. Actually, Swindon, we were talking about that earlier. Swindon Old Town is up here. Swindon Industrial makes money, don't like to talk about it. It's down in the valley. So we want to get away from that in Oxford. So ideally, by the way, any architects in the place, we want it to look a bit nicer than this, not just a box, but we also want it to be green, so it's got a green roof in this picture. And it's a really important piece of infrastructure for a number of reasons, and here's why. We're developing very quickly, so the future demand for rail within Oxfordshire itself is going to grow. And our transport policy, like most of yours, I'm sure, prioritises active travel first, bike and walking, mobility scooters and so on. Public transport second, by which we mean buses, our beloved buses mostly, but also taxis we see as a really important part of this as well. And also rail to do the heavy lifting and the distant journeys. So I want to be able to go from Whitney, where I live, to Vladivostok without having to worry about it and getting a single ticket, and most of that way by rail. But we know that people are going to be using rail to get, for instance, to work in Culham, Harlow, places like this. So across Oxfordshire, we've got this important need for connectivity, and with our growth comes a growth in need for that. But we also want to have an improvement in connectivity between these and interconnectivity between rail and other forms of transport. So that's very high in our minds as well. And you can see on this these diagrams will be available later, right, won't they, for close study. You don't need me to go through them in detail now, but we know we want to be able to link. But we also know that we've been letting the rest of you down. Swindon, I'm really sorry. Buckinghamshire, I apologise. The rest of the area has suffered from the fact that Oxford acts as a throttle on the rail network. It's a real mess, and we're sorry about that. It's not our fault, but we probably haven't been as stern as we should have been with the rail authorities in Westminster and Whitehall. Those guys are listening to us now, and we're getting the easing of that we've needed for such a long time, which is going to allow all sorts of really great new services to emerge from the Cowley branch line, which is going to do great things within Oxford City, Wantage Grove Station, which was going to free up a whole area down towards the White Horse, and also these services out to the west, to Wales, north, south, east, west. Oxford will no longer be that horrible slug you have to navigate past on the network. It will become an enabling crossroads, and that's what we're after. So the station itself is going to be a big improvement, not just for the rail, of course, but for connectivity. So we've got buses going in there at the moment, but we're also working on the spinal roads, the access roads that come into Oxford, Woodstock Road, Banbury Road, Botley Road, for those of you who know them. We're working on them at the moment to make them much, much better places. Still not as good as they could be, and there are various people in this room who are going to hold us to a high standard on this, but much better than they are currently for cycling and for public transport. And that's really critical. So we want people to be able to get to this station, but we don't want them to drive into the station. It's a complete nightmare, traffic in Oxford. Don't drive in Oxford, it's a nightmare. It's a terrible place to drive. What you want to do is get on a bus or a bike or use the park and ride or a number of other things. But the other reason we don't want people to drive is because we want to regenerate this whole neighbourhood. And there's some car parks here. Car parks are such a waste of space. And they're all grey and disgusting, and they add to that general feeling of depression and ugliness when you arrive in our beautiful city. So we don't want it. We want it to be a beautiful entrance to the city, with the railway station as a really sort of high point of that. We want the whole, this whole district, for those of you who know Oxford, is running from County Hall somewhere here-ish. Can't quite tell, no, maybe here. All of this side, though, is historic and highly important, but covered at the moment with pretty mediocre buildings. When I first arrived in Oxford, there was a tyre depot right in the middle of the city here, a tyre depot. First thing you see, young 18-year-old getting off the train, tyre depot. Oh, there was a caravan selling burgers as well. So we shouldn't forget that. But then we're going to go over the other side as well to Oseney Mead, the industrial estate, which was built for the industries of the 19th century and really need to be reimagined. And this whole neighbourhood will turn Oxford into a much bigger, better, more beautiful and more connected city, and it will stop it being a blight on your development as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Duncan. Before you go, because we are almost bang out of time, A lot of the focus today we've been talking about is about big infrastructure projects which go from A to B and really kind of transform transport connectivity. I suppose first and last mile connectivity is a big goal of the Heartland. And I suppose the station redevelopment is at the heart of that. How do you make sure that the focus for investment, the focus for discussion is on those first and last mile issues, rather than just the big grand projets which link those up?
Yeah, it's a good point, and the devil is in the detail to a certain extent. So it's about some of the detail work we're doing along the Botley Road is a good example of this, because that's the first and last mile out in that direction of West Oxford and beyond. And it's about really detailed work to improve things like junctions. The connections between a good cycle lane and the next good cycle lane is as important as the cycle lanes themselves. So they've got to be continuous. I live in Witney out west as well. And so for us, the big improvements we're bringing along the A40 in terms of bus lanes and cycle lanes are a really important part of that too. But the first and last mile, one of the things we're looking at, and there's been mentioned a few times here, is mobility hubs. And the idea that those can be used in rural areas as well as urban areas as a way of making public transport really work well and be really connected well to things like shared bike schemes or shared car schemes, car clubs even, will probably help with some of that too.
Good. Well, I look forward to seeing the progress. And on the look of the station, well, don't underrate the value of a concrete box structure, because apparently the Sterling Prize is awarded for concrete box structures.
Yeah, well, Sterling can have his boxes. we want beauty.
Duncan, thank you very much. Round of applause, Duncan. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Right.